I'm very excited about Mary Poppins Returns. Ooh, everybody's copying Warner Brothers these days. They can't get no respect. But anyway, I'm very excited about this sequel. Just very quickly, if you don't know my history with Mary Poppins, I'm a big fan of the original film, the 1964 film. It was one of my father's favorite movies, and when I was growing up, he would watch it like almost on a loop, which I found frustrating. But then, after I saw Saving Mr. Banks, which is one of my top 3 favorite films of all time, I was blown away to realize that the reason my father liked Mary Poppins so much is that he identified with what Mr. Banks goes through in the film. So Mary Poppins is not only supposed to be a lot of fun, but it's supposed to have a really strong message as well. It's supposed to get pretty darn serious. So I'll be looking to this film to do the same. And also the other reason I like Saving Mr. Banks is because it talks about the creative process and a balance, between what Walt Disney wanted for the character, the more commercial aspects, and what P.L. Travers wanted for, or originally meant for the character, with some of the more meaningful aspects. Although, of course, Walt was sensitive to those too and wanted to honor them. But it's fascinating. And it was a perfect combination. But of course, neither of them is working on this new movie, which I thought was okay when we saw some of the leaks from production. They're filming in London, partially on sound stages, but partially actually on the streets of London. And those leaks have looked very good. So imagine my surprise that the first official look at the movie here from Entertainment Weekly is what's troubling, right? I mean, you would think they'd be able to put their best foot forward. And the fact that they can't gives me some concern as to whether or not Rob Marshall truly understands the first film that he's trying to duplicate. So here's the cover. We're going to start with that. We're going to go through, we have a couple of images from the film, some information about the movie, and also some concept art. Who doesn't enjoy concept art? And you can see Wonder Woman is given a shout out on this cover here. And speaking of Wonder Woman and concept art, it's amazing how close Patty Jenkins got to the concept art with the actual movie. And so far from what you're gonna see here with Mary Poppins, I don't know if that's the case. I'm worried about it. Okay. Wow, it's crazy to see Mary Poppins is the focus of this cover, and then Wonder Woman as the secondary headline. It's all about these strong female characters. What an age we're living in! But it's all about balance. You want everybody to feel included, and perhaps they should have put Lin Manuel Miranda on here as well. Now you might be like, what could be your problem with this cover, Grace? It's just a picture of Mary Poppins. There's not that much going on here. But you're wrong. All right, so first off, I don't like these little 1960s flowers they've put on there. The original Mary Poppins might have been made in the 1960s, and it was a beautiful Technicolor film, the pinnacle of what Walt Disney could do with entertainment. That's why it's so celebrated and is an Oscar-winning movie. However, it took place, the film was set in 1910, and it has a very Victorian England feel about it, obviously, but also, it mimics, I think, a lot of what Walt so famously accomplished with Main Street in his theme parks. Often people's, or Disney fans at least, like myself, our favorite part of the park. I always tell people, I don't have to go on a single ride, I just want to sit on Main Street for a little while and people watch and go through the stores. So that's the joy of the first Mary Poppins. And I think the 1960s-esque flower cutouts here just really don't work. It's the wrong tone. And then I like Emily Blunt's outfit as Mary Poppins. We've seen her in this before in the on-set leaks, but her expression is all wrong. Mary Poppins does not smile. Mary Poppins is famously, stiff, but in the awesome British way, right? And that's something that Julie Andrews did so famously in a number of scenes in the movie, right? She's like, I'm not going to give in. I'm not going to, you almost got me there, Bert, but I'm not going to give in. I have to keep my proper British demeanor, which is awesome. And, I don't know how good a singer Claire Foy is, but perhaps, now that I think about it, maybe she would have been a little bit better, but I'm not going to give on Emily Blunt just yet. But that expression is all wrong. All right, so this movie takes place, by the way, in the 1930s. Jane and Michael are all grown up, and here they are, looking like they're in the 70s. This is 1930s England, a very difficult time economically. And I guess you can see that a little bit in the fraying of some of the things in the Banks home. They're not quite of the same, wealth that it was exuded from the house in the first film. But it still looks very England in the 1970s to me, and so that throws me off a little bit. That's Emily Mortimer, by the way. Doesn't she look great as a blonde? I like Emily Mortimer, but I think she's never really, popped as an actress, and there she looks absolutely fantastic. So the story here is that now Michael lives in the house. He's a banker like his father, but also an artist. Oh, I think we're gonna have, they're gonna escape to his art, perhaps. That would be fantastic. But he's a banker and an artist. I'm sure he's, that to me right away sounds like he's gonna be dealing with what he has to do to provide a living for his family, and then also what he really wishes he could do, which is be an artist. Who isn't a weekend or evening artist, right? Even though they have to pay the bills with a job that perhaps is not what they dreamed of. So anyway, so Michael is an artist and a banker, and he lives at home, and unfortunately his wife passes away. So Aunt Jane, comes to live with him and his 3 children. She's a union organizer, taking after her suffragist mother, one of the best sequences in the original movie. And unfortunately, though, she cannot pull the family out of its deep nosedive. So along comes Mary Poppins, and there are 2 of the 3 new Banks children. We've gone from 2 to 3. That seems like a lot of kids to focus on, especially since Jane and Michael didn't get a ton of focus even in the first movie. But I love Emily Mortimer, and that's Ben Whishaw, voice of Paddington Bear. That's so funny, Paddington and Mary Poppins in the same movie. But he's a delightful actor. I really enjoy his work quite a bit. He's, of course, also Q in the Bond movies. He's just absolutely fantastic. And he's one of the few, I think it's important to point out, one of the few openly gay actors working in mainstream blockbusters today. All right, so again, I hate what they're wearing. That's the 70s. And I'm not a fan of the 70s, actually. All right, so this looks right out of the first movie, but again, I hate what they're wearing. All right, there you can see they have a sister, the Banks children. And again, this looks very much, this looks like The Conjuring 2, quite frankly. Good movie. But, in terms of the color palette and the outfits that they have on. But let's see. So there's Lin Manuel Miranda, and there's Mary Poppins. And again, Mary Poppins seems to be having way too much fun. You might recall that she did a full dance routine with Bert and his chimney sweeps and barely cracked a smile the whole time. And that's part of her appeal and charm. I don't like this happier Mary Poppins, especially since things seem to be worse than ever for the Banks family. What are you smiling about, Mary? Huh? There's nothing to smile about. Now this is pretty good. I feel good about this. Although I don't know if I would be giving children sticks with fire on the end of it to play with. Here, kid, twirl this around. Try not to poke anybody in the eye. But so here, they have a couple of, they seem to be very good dance numbers. There's ones with bicycles that we saw from the onset leaks, which looks really good. And then now, of course, they're going to have a lamplight parade. And Lin Manuel Miranda seems to be really selling this to his credit. So he looks great there. And everybody's having a fabulous time. A much cleaner job, apparently, than chimney sweeping. Now, this photo makes me want a live-action Peter Pan, like right now. They're supposed to be working on that. There haven't been really any developments besides getting the director from Pete's Dragon. Maybe after Pete's Dragon didn't totally deliver, they were like, do we want to do this with him at least? Let's just not talk about it, and he'll move on, and then we won't have to have fired him. But that looks just like straight out of Peter Pan. It's, of course, Big Ben, and they say there's going to be a sequence where they go to the top of Big Ben. I hope they don't actually copy or pay homage to Peter Pan, because that's a pretty famous scene from the animated movie that's from the same company. So hands off, Rob Marshall. But that lighting looks just really exquisite. They also apparently are going to go underwater, which I have to say has piqued my interest. All right, then next we have one more photo before we go to the concept art, and this is rehearsals, and they're like, we got to get Meryl Streep in here. So I don't care if she's not in costume. Let's just put a picture of her practicing, the new music. I'll put up the people who are composing the music. They're very respectful, music and lyrics people from Broadway. I don't really quite know if they can do what the Sherman Brothers did. That's very unique. That's why Disney liked them and used them for so many things while he could. But we'll see. I mean, that's probably the most famous score to ever come out of Disney. So we'll see if they could possibly live up to it. But also, you can see Emily Blunt looking much more blonde here herself. And so I guess maybe that's a wig that she's sporting as Mary Poppins. But everybody seems to be having a great time. But why not? Meryl Streep is singing in front of them, right? All right, now let's look at some concept art, which I think is a lot more promising. Look at that. Ooh, watercolors. And that's really stunning. That, just the fog of London, and then London has some beautiful parks, by the way. Hyde Park is spectacular. So big, so beautiful. It's a little scarier than Central Park. Central Park is more manicured. Hyde Park, often you're like, I'm in the woods, and that's a little scary, even though you're in the middle of a bustling metropolis. But there he is, lighting some lights with Big Ben in the distance, cutting through the fog. And the rainbow light that's coming off onto the park bench and into the water, through the green of the trees. It's just stunning. I see nothing of that quality in the photos from the actual movie. That's one of the nice things about Wonder Woman, and I'm glad they shot a lot of this movie on location, as did Wonder Woman, in London, actually, interestingly enough. But I think, if you're gonna, I don't understand. And it happens even with animated films. We talk about this all the time. Why aren't they as ambitious with the film as they are when they initially dream it up, right? But that looks really spectacular. I love that. I want to go into that painting like Mary Poppins can. Take me there, Mary. Then this one is, they said that this was an abandoned park where Jack likes to hang out and light the lamps for no reason, I guess. I think it's just abandoned because it's nighttime. Because why would that beautiful building still be there? Greenhouses are fantastic. If you're ever in a city that has a greenhouse, for instance, I have family in Pittsburgh and I like to go to the conservatory whenever I'm there. It's just a really fun way to spend a couple of hours. So that looks like and also they used to have World's Fairs in buildings like that. So they have like a nice historical significance as well. They're very nice. I like them. I have a nice feeling about them. And also, of course, right at the end of Main Street is the Crystal Palace, which looks a lot like that. It has it used to be a great, it used to be a fantastic cafeteria where you could, just eat casually, but now it's a character meal, but I still love it anyway. It's got Winnie the Pooh in it. All right, so anyway, he needs to join this group too, Mary Poppins and Paddington. One of you suggested Paws of Justice, Paddington and Winnie the Pooh. I thought that was fantastic. So anyway, here they are in this park. It looks pretty. It looks nice. I'm distracted by the building. I just want to go in there. I am sure they will. And then finally, here is a beautiful rendition of Cherry Tree Lane, which they recreated indoors at Shepperton Studios, where they shot part of the film. Cherry blossoms on Cherry Tree Lane, of course, are just so stunning, so beautiful. I would have put cherry blossoms on the cover, quite frankly, with Mary Poppins. I think that would be more appropriate. Now, it looks more bleak in some of the on-set photos that we've seen with Mary Poppins on 17 Cherry Tree Lane. So I guess this is maybe at the beginning of the movie or at the end of the movie, where things aren't quite so bad yet, or are resolved right at the end of the movie. But it looks really, really nice. And they talked about the fact that Dick Van Dyke has a small cameo. They say it's super secretive, but my guess is that he's playing the head of the bank again, as he did in the first film. That's a very famous cameo. He played two roles. He played the head of the bank and then also, of course, Bert. And so he filmed that, and he said he was on this set standing there, and he turned to Rob Marshall, and he said, I feel like I'm home. And I don't know. I think, of course, Dick Van Dyke said that. Dick Van Dyke's a professional. Dick Van Dyke comes from an era in Hollywood where they had the studio system. He knows how to say a good line. And, sure enough, how'd they close out the article? Focusing on Dick Van Dyke. Even though he's only probably in one scene of the movie, right? If I were Emily Blunt and Lin Manuel Miranda, whose name, by the way, Dick Van Dyke purposely forgot when being interviewed about this film in another article, I'd be like, well played, Van Dyke. Well played. And then I would say to my publicist, we have to up our game on the next articles because Dick Van Dyke ain't closing out any more of these things. All right, so how does it look to you? And what do you like about the first Mary Poppins that you hope they can capture in the second Mary Poppins? And if you've seen Saving Mr. Banks, you have to. You have to watch Mary Poppins, and then you have to watch Saving Mr. Banks before you see this movie. You won't be able to fully appreciate it. All right, so that's my thoughts on this. Leave your own thoughts down below, and you can check out some more videos right now.